Okay, so welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Van Life Designer. So I'm ridiculously excited today because I've decided to finish all of the holes that need to be drilled through the floor that I've built and the van. Today, the reason why I didn't have the things to drill with. I've held back on that because I needed to make decisions about the location of things, and I needed to get my propane tank, and a few things needed to happen. So I'm actually doing all this as one project, despite the fact that it's the propane exhaust that I'm drilling. It's prepping the area for the S-bar diesel heater, and it's preparing the drainage for both the shower drain that I'm sitting on at the moment, or will be sitting on, and the sink drain. So these are the last holes I'm going to be drilling in my van. Yes, finally. I'm sick of drilling metal. And they need to be done because then I can start to put and secure cabinetry to the actual surface. And that's what I really want to start to be able to do. And I also want to be able to backfill around any of these things with floor insulation. I don't want to leave any places that haven't been insulated in the floor. So when you look back and you saw me doing the subfloor installation, I left some little holes for exactly what I'm doing today. So my tools for this are always the protection, ear, eye protection if necessary, and hand protection. And then this is a 2.5 inch drill bit, okay? That's going to be for my shower drain. And then I've got, where is it? I've got this super cool tool, and I can't remember what it's called. I will link it below though. It is a progressive step drill bit for metal, right? Look at that. Isn't that the coolest thing? Isn't that just amazing? And these steps will step whatever diameter I'm needing. Okay, so I can actually measure the diameter off that, and I can progressively step it until I've hit the sweet spot. So that's super cool. What else have I got? I've obviously got my drain because I need to be lining that up. I've got my propane tank because I want to see where its base sits so that the exhaust goes off to the side. And then that's for the drain. This is where I've jigged up something for propane, and I'll go through it before, but I basically got some plumbing parts. That's going to go in the bottom of the van. That's going to go in the top of the plywood, and that's going to sit in between it, such that I've actually got a little exhaust trap, okay? And then, what else have I got? I bought some wire gauge. Why? Because in between that and that, I don't want creepy crawlies crawling up through my exhaust into my van. Isn't that obvious? So I'm just gonna glue that to this, okay? And this is a hole that literally is just gonna be open to the bottom of the van. So I'm gonna make sure no creepy crawlies come up. So that's the kind of thing where you need to have a bit of ingenuity and just go to Home Depot and go, how can I jig this thing up to achieve what I'm going to achieve? Because a propane exhaust is not an item you buy at Home Depot. It's something you make. Okay, so this is what I'm doing today. So this feels like I'm getting some little bits finished that really need to be finished before I can start to really build inside the van, which is really exciting. So let's get started. Okay, so this is one of the hatches that I left open whilst I was making decisions about the placement of things. And in the meantime, I made the decision to get a tank inside the van. Various reasons. This tank was 60 bucks and an undermounted one is 600 bucks. So there alone is a good decision for now. I've left a way to undermount one later if I need to, but for now not. So basically, when I look at it in place, this is going to sit right at the back here, okay? It's going to sit snug in here inside what's called a propane locker, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I want it to sit snug in here so it doesn't move around too much, but I also need to be able to maintain the tank if necessary and bring it out through the front. So it means that I need to make sure that when I build the locker that I can get it out here, okay? But what it means is I can see here where it's going to sit, and I can see locations where I could exhaust around it. Okay, so I'm going to try to do some exhaust off of this front edge. So the next thing I'm actually going to do is get under the van and check that I can do that in a position. That's an important, that I'm not going to drill into something important. Okay, so right at this front edge. Edge right there. Okay, so the hole I'm drilling for is that diameter. Right, is 1.5. Remember rightly. Right to the edge. This is far in that edge as we can get. I'm just drawn an approximate position. I just want to put this back here. Make sure it's not covering up the hole. Nope. Perfect. So I have just drawn an approximate position of the hole. Okay, and that's where I'm going to be drilling a lovely big open space underneath there. So here goes. I wanted PVC components, which is why I chose plumbing components. But if anybody else has some smart ideas, please pop it down in the description box for others. At the end of the day, I'm doing this and created this channel to help people. So if you have a smarter, better way to do this, please let us know. And I'm just going to show you what I'm going to be doing here though. So that's going to be popped down there. This mesh is going to go on top. So what I'm going to do is create a little template to cut that out. I've got a nice little template there to cut. Okay, that's what I thought. The best tool is an old pair of scissors, right? Alright, sometimes there isn't a tool for that job, but there's something that's going to work, right? And we have it. See, my anti-creepy crawly mesh. That and that and that need to be glued together. So what I have is super glue and my clamp. Okay, so there is the hole for my propane exhaust. Okay. Here is the little jig that I've super glued together. Okay, and it's got mesh in it so beasties can't climb up into it. And I've realized I don't need the third piece. I'm just going to drill a hole through the plywood to there, and then that will pop into this hole here. Let me show you. Into there, right? And this will stick through the plywood. So far, plan going well. So in order to line up that with the plywood, I'm going to use my Play-Doh trick again. Okay, so I'm going to basically put a big chunk of Play-Doh in the top of here, like this, and then it should mark itself here. So push this in. Push this down. It should mark it in the right position. Let's hope it does. Plan has worked. Play-Doh position to drill out. Right there. And we have it. It's gonna work a total treat. Perfect. Now I can actually finish the insulation under here. As you can see, I'm very serious about insulation, making sure that any holes I put in the van and they're well insulated around it. So that's the Havelock wall, and we've got some of the granulated cork around this section. But now now I'm about to put this in and secure it in place. Fully removable drain if necessary. Voila! I'm simply drilling the hole for the sink waste at this point. I need to get it in again before I can cover this up. Okay, there we have two beautiful holes, right? So you can see here, this is going to be outlet for the sink drain. Okay, I'm about to just temporarily plug it up with that and then re-insulate around it so I can seal this finally on top of there. Okay, that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, there we have it. Drain hole and this back on, insulation in place. Yay! All right, next. So this last big hole is about fitting this drain into this position, and it's really tight because I need to get it centered on this cabinet here. So I'm going to undrill this. And I may have to, when I did my checks the other day, I may have to drill into this little faceboard a little bit, because this is going to have to sit in here. Center it on this. Oh, I feel the sunshine in my heart. It's a good day to be loved. Okay. One note, I always do marking in pencil unless I know it's going to get covered up, okay? You can rub it out, you're not going to have markings on things that you're using, so that's what that's for. Give me love, give me love, give me love like never before. I wait for you, my darling, that's for sure. Give me love, give me love, give me love like never before. And I wait for you, my darling, that's for sure. And again, so that's done. Before I can do anything more, I'm going to let the Rustoleum dry, and then I'm going to backfill with insulation and prep the drain installation. I just want to make a note here on why I keep all these cut-offs. They become shims for all sorts of things. So the actual metal surface of the van is scalloped, it's not flat, and so sometimes you need to fill it up to flatten it out. So I've got these little shims that I'm using, cut them down with this fabulous little tool, and I've just adhered the drain in place with some silicone. I'm just going to peel adhesive these shims in place now. Okay, so this is the drain in place, a little shim behind it, silicone around it, and then these other little shims that are leveling out this surface, which are going to help when I install this drain. Okay, so that's all going to be sitting to dry at this point. And as I was describing why I keep all of these kind of shims when I cut off anything, any type of wood or plywood. come in super handy in a situation like this. So that's where we're at. I just have to cut that out. Okay, so this drain is all set up and ready. I'm going to insulate it. Just showing that the drain will then be flush with the flooring, and everything else is in position. The drain will be able to come in and out. So that's that done. So today I'm back in the van finishing all the holes in the floor. I had to let some glue dry last night, and so here we are. I also did a little bit of framing work and I didn't film it because I was in a flow, but here we are. I'm going to check on all the glue and then finalize the holes. Okay, I haven't filmed this whole process. Today's been one of those days on the build site, and you would have just seen me making mistakes and re-drilling and remaking shapes, and that's what happens sometimes. So this is a really good example of, we've got a floor plan that we plan out on this side of the van, as in inside the van, and then all my other holes have been great underneath the van, but you've got to keep going under there and checking. And I had done measurements, but I must have, it's hard to find what, there's all these bulkhead strips underneath the van and it's hard to know exactly what they correspond to up here, so I wasn't getting them right basically. But the last holes I had to drill today were the holes for my S2D2 elevation proof diesel heater. Okay, I really considered very carefully the diesel heater situation. I've gone with this. It's not cheap, but I do plan to be in the mountains, up and down mountains all the time, and with a Chinese diesel heater you're constantly having to adjust things. There are, even with the earlier version of the SPA, you have to do adjustments, and so this puppy is designed to adjust for elevation. Anyway, so all these pieces here underneath need to be drilled for, right? So I need to be able to attach this to my van, and because I've already built a subfloor, I could have sunk it down into my van but didn't want to. So what I've done here is I have created holes, let me show you, for that piping to go down through the van. Okay, what sits on top of that is going to be this. I'm going to insulate behind here, by the way. That's why I'm creating a sealed barrier in here that I can insulate around, and is I'm going to have a think of fireproofing or heat proofing before I finish up here, but that can come up too. Okay, I can heat proof this interior piece. These are just being stuck down at the moment. Okay, and then what will happen is, once that's done, these will go back on top. And this is not in the exact position I wanted it to be according to my floor plan, so I'm going to have to make some adjustments with my cabinetry. And and then these will go on top like this. Yep. And these holes here. Let me show you. I can see that. Okay. So these holes here will line up and correspond with the holes in the bottom of the van. Now I may have to extend the pipe work in the subfloor here to make that work. I don't know yet, but I have drilled the holes, and that's what matters at this point. So the heater will sit on top of this metal plate, and then all other pipe work will go down through the van, and the rest of the plumbing will be underneath the van, but that's for another episode. The main thing is I have finished drilling all of the holes in the bottom of my van for now. Okay, so it took 2 sessions to do this final holes drilled in the bottom of the van, partly because I needed to have some drying time for some adhesives, partly because there's a few things that I learnt from this today, and one is it's all very well to have our floor plan on the inside of the van, but it has to match up with underneath the van so that you're not drilling too close to the exhaust, you're not drilling too close to the fuel tank, that you're not drilling inside of one of the rib bulkheads. And that's something that I came up against today when I was actually drilling the position for my S-bar diesel heater. So I can't mount mine easily, at least underneath the passenger seat, because I have an auxiliary battery under there. So I've had to actually find a position inside the van, and I found that well in my layout, but then when I went to drill it in position, I was right on top of a bulkhead. So that's one thing I've learned. The second thing is, and I've learned this from various other projects, if something's not working, just pushing through it is not necessarily the right thing to do, especially when, for me, I find I know just stop, tune in, think about it, sometimes sleep on it. I find that's amazing. If I sleep on it, I wake up and I go, I know exactly what to do now. So that's the old sleep on it thing to think about. Otherwise, it feels amazing to have done this. I can now start building on top of here now, which means I can start building cabinetry, putting in the flooring, doing the plumbing, doing all the electricals, doing all those things I've been waiting to do, because inside my apartment at the moment is like a warehouse of stuff that needs to get installed in the van at this point. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments box. I will endeavour to answer them if it's within my purview, capacity and experience. If not, I will give you links, because there are numerous people that I've been following who have been amazing in terms of teaching me how to do the build side of this, this is the build series, so this is where I'm not such an expert, okay? So that's why I'm slowing some of it down when I need to. So subscribe over here if you haven't, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye for now.